An undercover operation leads to a shooting in Kent. This happened in the parking lot of a Lowe's on Pacific Highway South.
We're still learning new details about this shooting. King 5's Greg Copeland joining us now in studio to break it down for us. Greg.
Probably won't have a lot of details for a couple of days as they continue that investigation. So Kent police were working with ATF on a joint operation to get some guns off the street. Tonight, just before 5 o'clock, undercover agents met with a known street dealer selling guns illegally. This happened here. Let's set the scene here. Right off 240th and Pacific Highway South, and you see the Lowe's right here, and this is the parking lot. And we're going to note this. All the suspects got into, or all the people got into the suspect vehicle, which was right here in kind of the southwest corner of that parking lot. Now, what we know is that the chief telling us that that's when the suspects attempted to rob the two undercover officers, and then there was a shootout. What we don't know is whether that shootout actually started inside the car, but we do know there were several bullet casings outside of that vehicle. We also know the main suspect was shot and taken to Harborview with life-threatening injuries. The second suspect then hopped out of the car with a gun in hand and ran north, and at some point ran into traffic where he was hit by a vehicle. And at that point, he was apprehended, also taken to the hospital for treatment. Now, to give you an idea of where we are here, you got the, see if I can do this correctly, the scene, you've got the store, and you've got basically the Domino's here. 380 feet, 82 feet. This is, again, right before 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And one of the questions that was asked tonight of the chief is why this type of meeting would go down in such a public place.
We are averaging in South King County about 58 shootings per month. And that worries me a lot. That concerns me a lot, as well as you are. And they don't pick and choose where they're involved in their shootings and where they're doing their drive-bys and where they're doing their other operations. So our officers and agents are out there doing everything they possibly can to keep our community safe. So I understand your concern, but at the same time, I need to push back and say, our guys are doing everything they can, and we don't get to pick and choose and schedule these things always. We got to do what we can to go after these suspects very aggressively and get them into custody and do what we can. This is a terrible, it's a tragedy anytime we're involved in a shooting, but it goes along with what we're dealing with right now.
And it sounds like they are up against a lot, really trying to pull everything out of the book there, use everything they can to try to tackle this. But the good news there, no officers were tonight.
So tell us this, Greg, how crazy is this situation? We have a shootout between, the officers and these suspects. How wild is it that no one else outside of the suspects were even hit or injured or anything like that?
It's a good question. We don't know how many shots were fired. We just know there were multiple bullet casings on the ground there. You saw the blown out window at the very beginning where I think it was the passenger or the driver's side rear window that was shot out. So the exchange of gunfire with the main suspect, nobody else was hit except that suspect. And then, fortunately, when the other guy ran up and he ran north and then across the street and into traffic, he had a gun with him. And there were other officers around there, but everybody took notice of what their background was, and there was a lot of restraint shown there. None of those officers fired their weapons because obviously they did not deem it safe.
So the guy with the gun running away was hit by a car and was stopped, and at that point he was
taken
arrested.
into custody and taken to the hospital. Okay, but no other shots fired except for that one scene, which all things considered was pretty good.
Crazy situation.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you so much for that update.